And you see what I mean? It's just like that's what we have to identify. It's like the closer we get to God, the more we're going to hear the truth about ourselves, what God created us for. Can you imagine something? People criticize things all the time, right? People criticize, cars, they criticize shoes, just stuff that people come and they use, and people have their own critique about it. But it's like the creator ultimately knows the value behind it.
Welcome to the Free and Redeemed podcast. I am your host, Simon, and here on this specific show, we tackle over key topics that every single Christian struggles with. We bring in guests, we bring in godly wisdom, and more importantly, we bring in scriptures in the Bible to help you enhance your walk with God, bring in confidence, and put you into the direction of freedom and grace by the power of the Holy Spirit. If you're new to this platform, I encourage you to subscribe. With all that being said, guys, let's get started with today's episode.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Free and Redeemed podcast. Hope you guys are doing well. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. We are posting content every other week. Today's episode, and actually not even just today's episode, we are actually starting a new series here on the Free and Redeemed podcast from here on till the rest of the year. And it is about mindset. Mindset, I think, is a very key topic. I think that maybe we've covered a little bit in this specific show. I want to laser focus more specifically on having a strong, positive mindset. Not even so much positive. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but having a strong mindset, no matter where you are at in life, what you may be struggling with, or basically how your life looks like right now. Having a strong mindset, I think, definitely matters, especially if you're a Christian, because, as Christians, we're not immune from everything. One of those things we're not immune from is the struggles that we go through today. And there's just a lot I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, but, as Christians, a lot of times we may face discouragement. We may get into a place where we get hurt, or we fall into betrayal, and then we struggle to forgive the person that hurt us or deeply offended us, or we struggle with loneliness, we struggle with insecurity or self-esteem. Sometimes I know this can relate to me as well, we struggle with complacency, how consistent we are in our faith. And as much as this could all be relatable to all of us, what I really want to talk about, or what I want to kick this series off with today, and this is going to be a very short episode, but I want to talk about why mindset is huge for your salvation. There's a parable that Jesus reads where he talks about the parable of the sowers of the seeds, and he talks about when seeds are scattered around soil. He talks about some are taken up by crows, some fall into the soil, they get choked up by thorns and they don't fully grow. Some are just pressured by the sun, so they end up dying out. And then he says some fall on good soil and they grow to what they're called to grow. And I think that's exactly what our faith is really meant to be. Faith is meant to be as a seed that is meant to grow. And a lot of times, as we will learn about faith, it will be disrupted multiple times. But this is why mindset, I think, is very huge, because a lot of these common scenarios could result in a person's faith to decline, or a lot of times people fall away. In other words, what Jesus is really saying in this parable, or what he was really saying in that parable, is there's going to be a lot of people that see the faith, they see the glory of God. But a lot of times I think they choose to fall away when life gets tough. But Jesus is talking about a good soil here. He's talking about the soil of the soil that falls on good soil, and it grows 10 to 50 fold, and it just continues to grow, because that's exactly what it is. And what is that faith? How do we show faith? And I know I've talked about what it means to show faith. Really comes down to what we see up here, what goes on up here. Everything, every emotion that we show, it all starts from what our mind starts it off with, or what our mind basically created. Our mind thinks, there's just so many studies. Our mind thinks thousands of thoughts almost a day. And whether if those thoughts are negative or if they're positive, there's meant to be so much more. There's meant to be so much more when it comes to mindset or our mental health. And when we think these thoughts, and when however our mind goes, it really determines of how our day is going to go. It's going to determine how our week's going to go. It's going to determine how our month, our year's going to go. And this is why it's very important, because it plays a huge role in our faith, because you know what, at the end of the day, if we want to strive and get closer to God, if you do not have a strong mindset, there are things that will happen. There are going to be times where your faith may be challenged, and it may be challenged between you and your church. But in today's episode, I'm briefly just going to go over 3 key points that you need to know if you want to have a strong mindset in God, if you want to have a strong mindset between you and your relationship with God. And the Bible, it does not even shy away from having a strong mindset. One of my favorite verses is in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, where it says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." It's pretty textbook right there, that if you want to have a strong mindset, if you want to fully see God's will for your life, sometimes it's all about transforming or renewing your mind. How do we do that? Maybe that's what people may be asking. How do we do that? Well, starting off with point number 1 is, if you have a strong mindset, it will reveal the lies that you believe about yourself. One of the first steps maybe to really have a stronger mindset is what lies am I believing? Lies almost seem more believable than the enemy loves to lie to you. He'll love to lie to you, and most of the time it's not nice things about you. It's, you're not good enough. You were not strong enough. You were not smart enough. You just don't have the skills. You're just not, and it's just like if you're struggling in your faith, if you're struggling with an addiction, you failed again. Wow, look at that. You failed again. God shouldn't love you anymore. You should stop going to God. And then he influences shame. Point is, it's like we start to believe lies about ourselves that, hey, I'm just not in it anymore, or you know what, I'm just not meant for this, I'm not meant for that. And these are things that we tend to believe more than the truth. The truth is that we were created by God, and we were wonderfully made. We were meant to be God's creation, to be used by God to do amazing things for the Lord. But if we want to have that strong mindset, it's like, are we believing more lies, more negative things about ourselves than more of the positive thing? More of, not even so much the positive things, more of the encouraging things about ourselves. Everybody deserves to be encouraged, but it's up to them how they receive that encouragement. But the way I can tell you that mindset really determines how our life will go, it's like, if we believe lies, then we create the lies within our own identity. If we believe we're not good enough, then we're going to live that we're not good enough. If we believe that we're a failure, then we're going to try to go ahead and live like we're failures. That's why in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7, it says, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." How easy is it for us to have a negative mindset about ourselves and then just go ahead and live that mindset? A few years ago, and I really look back on this specific time when I went through a very discouraging or hurtful situation in my life pertaining to a relationship, one of the lies I think I just stuck with on myself, and I'm going to get to this in a second, but it was really just because of a statement that a certain church leader said, that I don't think he meant to say it that way, but when he said it, there was an impact. The impact was, wow, I guess you're just not good enough. And it stuck with me, and I believed that. I allowed myself to believe it, and then I remember I was so discouraged and I think so traumatized by this certain situation that everyone I interacted with, it's like, man, I just, interacted with people like I'm not good enough. And I think people saw that over the years. But I think what really helped me during that moment was, it was about rebuilding my mindset about myself, that, I am good enough in God's eyes. It doesn't matter how people see me. It's about how God sees me, and it's about the mindset that God is building up with me, so that, his perfect will for my life will be the right people that he wants in my life, not the people that don't need to be in my life. And you see what I mean? It's just like, that's what we have to identify. It's like, the closer we get to God, the more we're going to hear the truth about ourselves, what God created us for. Can you imagine something? People criticize things all the time, right? People criticize, cars, they criticize shoes, just stuff that people come and they use and they put, and people have their own critique about it. But it's like the creator ultimately knows the value behind it. For example, a good example I can give you is there's like, for example, like a restaurant. I remember there was this one time we would always go to this restaurant. It's one of our favorite restaurants, a sushi place, really good place. But I remember they're located in a hole in the wall looking area. And I remember when we went there, we thought it was great. We thought the food was good. But then we started seeing certain reviews like, oh, this place is sketch. This place is this place, just certain negative things about it that weren't really true. Oh, don't trust this place. I'm sure they have, they have this and that. But you know what? There's like some guy, or, what makes me think about this specific example is the owner of that specific sushi place, very nice guy. When he opens up that place, I could just see the positive energy or just the positive attitude that he has around his customers, how he makes that sushi and everything. And I see that because, you know what, at the end of the day, this is what he started. He knows the value of it. So therefore, that's how customers come. That's how people come, because he knows the value of it. And that's what it means to have a strong mindset, is to simply what? Know the value about yourself. And if you want to talk to somebody about your value, it's all starting with him, speaking your mindset to God, because at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? He created you at the end of the day. Can you imagine taking criticism from people? Because at the end of the day, they didn't create you, but yet we come to people all the time as if they created us, as if they're our creator. So their opinion matters more. But that's just some things to just get out of the way for point number one. Moving on to point number two is it makes us stronger during the hard times if you have a strong mindset. You know what? I'll say it like this. Our mind is the ultimate spiritual battlefield. Here's the thing. The enemy doesn't care about physically attacking you. Matter of fact, he can't really physically attack you, but how are the ways he can attack? It's just simply by the thoughts he puts in your head. That's all he really needs to do at the end of the day. It's just influence you. Wow, no one says hi to you. No one invites you. Wow, you're still not over this? You know, like, it's just like so many thoughts. Are you even cool enough to hang out with them? You're not good enough to get this job. Look at that. You're just not skilled for this. And these are the thoughts that are just coming in and out. One of my relatives, one of the times when he preaches, he says our brain is almost like an airport. There's thoughts that come in, there's thoughts that come out, like a airport, planes come out. He goes, it's up to you at the end of the day, what kind of thoughts you want to get out of your head. It's hard to get things out of your head sometimes, right? But sometimes the way to get certain things out is to what you bring in. If you want those negative thoughts to come in, sometimes what if it's the thoughts of, you know what, I am capable of overcoming. I am capable of, achieving and, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, it's like when we're going through something difficult, we have to ask ourselves the question. It's just like, what are we letting in? If you're struggling with unforgiveness right now, this isn't fully a message about unforgiveness. It's like, what thoughts are you bringing in that's making you more and more bitter at the person? What thoughts are you bringing in? What thoughts are you taking out? Sometimes, that's really honestly the key of overcoming unforgiveness, is what you're bringing in. When you're praying for them, when you're choosing to pray and give them in God's hands, at the end of the day, you're welcoming peace. You're welcoming the thoughts of peace. That's how we are overcoming this spiritual battle. But moving on to point number 3, this is the last and final point. If we want to have a strong mindset for our salvation, it's what really grows our faith at the end of the day. Romans chapter 5, verses 3-5, it says, not only that we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and hope does not put us into shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit and what God has given to us. Let me just say it like this. When we're going through a difficult time and we're struggling to have a strong mindset during that time, we have to understand one thing. There's a purpose behind everything. If we want to be mature, if we want to become the veterans, or, if we want to become the mature people that God has created us to be, sometimes maybe it's going through a difficult time. Because you can't go through positive, life can't just go your way all the time. And then it's just like, that's how you're going to build, a strong mindset. Like, no, what if you went through the hardest road, the hardest route, just to get to where you're praying for God to bring you? Rather, if it's overcoming unforgiveness, if it's overcoming an addiction, if it's, finding the right career for you, if it's finding your wife, what if God put you through the toughest test? Because at the end of the day, even though those times were hard, at the end of the day, that's what really built you up. It's what prepared you. It's what made you into the character that you were today. And if life just went your way all the time, do you really think that your character would have produced into that? That's what really faith is all about at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's just like, if you think about it, the disciples, I think of that specific verse or that specific story where Peter walks on water and he sees Jesus in the distance, and then he tells him, if this is really you, I will walk on water. You will allow me to walk on water. He had that tinge of faith, but all it took was for him to take a few steps, realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing this, and then just take his eyes off Jesus, because he was so worried about the storm. But it was that specific moment where he learned, man, this is what's producing his character. And it was almost like he had a similar experience. He was walking with the Lord until all of a sudden he wasn't, when he denied him. But it was then in the book of Acts where he goes through all the trials, when he basically baptizes the first Roman soldier, and he does all these things, and he ends up getting crucified upside down. And the whole reason for that, it was because it was the production of his mindset towards him, and between him and his relationship with the Holy Spirit. And this is stuff that we really have to remember if we want to produce in our walk with God. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. I'm very excited about this series. We're going to do more episodes as time goes on. But with all that being said, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great day.